Hi, everyone. This is Shane and Anna. Hey, so we want to give you hope today. Lots of hope for today and for the future.
Right. So this is a Memorial Day week, and joining us now, a very special guest and friend to our heart and dear friend to the show, Father Tom Johns, St. John Vianney Church. Hi, Father. How are you?
I'm doing great, Shane. Anna, good to see you guys.
Oh, good to
Great
see
to see
you.
you.
Good to be seen. It's been quite a year, huh, Father?
It sure has. This is our first weekend at church where we're kind of getting back to normal. So things have opened up today, and Mass is going on right now, 4:00 Mass, and there's a decent crowd there, and people are sitting close. Families are embracing, and I'm recognizing faces because there's no masks. So yes, things are slowly getting back to normal. So that's great. Yeah, but it's been a rough year, very rough year.
Right. So a lot of people have lost a lot of loved ones. What tips can we give them so they can move forward in their grief?
Well, I think the grief is complicated. You know, you got normal grief and you got complicated grief. So I think a lot of this COVID grief is more complicated. You know, it's not just like grandpa dying at the age of 90 with warning and plenty of time to prepare yourself and to say what you need to say and hear what you need to hear. That didn't happen for a lot of these poor folks that died in this past year. Many of them died alone, you know, in the hospital. I could tell you many times where I couldn't even go anoint anybody. I, couldn't get in the hospital, especially if they had COVID. So I couldn't bring them the grace of the sacraments. I couldn't pray with them in person. Families couldn't be there. Families were sometimes out in the parking lot just so that they could be close to their loved one. So their grief is a little bit more complicated. You know, they didn't get a chance to say all the stuff they wanted to say, or they didn't get to spend time with their loved one before they died. So I think it is tough. One of the things that I'm noticing now that's happening at our place, now that things are getting better, a lot of those families that lost a loved one in the past year and maybe didn't even do a funeral because they didn't want to put anybody in the family at risk and they didn't want to gather people, or they weren't even allowed to for a while. A lot of those families are doing celebrations of life now. So, the last couple of weeks, I've been meeting with families who maybe lost a loved one months ago. And they're coming in and they're able to talk to me and they're able to talk to one another, and they're able to pick out scripture readings and music and have some type of memorial service. So I think that's helping some of the people. They're able to connect with the community, which is normally what happens when you lose a loved one. You've got all this support coming to you. Now they're able to get it. So I think that's helping. More and more families are doing, a memorial service, and then they do a lunch after it. And then everybody gets together and they tell great stories about the loved one, that died, and they realize they're keeping the memory alive in the telling of the stories and supporting each other. So I think that's helping, coming together to pray and coming together to tell stories.
So Father, you've resided probably over so many funerals this year. It's probably been a record for you. How do you personally cope with everyone's grief? Do you have to shoulder that grief, or what tricks do you have to get over the burden of being the presider of so many funerals?
Well, I'm fortunate that I live with two other priests. So, just like you and Anna support each other through the sacrament of marriage, I'm blessed with Father Dober and Father Morris. I'm also blessed with Deacon Greg. So, I live with these guys, and we get together for supper every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. We get together to pray every Monday, Wednesday. We support each other in our work. So, each of us have had some tough funerals, and so we can help each other. I have my classmates, I'm off on Tuesdays, so I see them, and they too are, great support. I think, some of them have been a little bit tougher than others. Like I had a 35-year-old die the other day, and she has a 4-year-old son. Those are tough. The little 4-year-old boy was at the funeral mass right in the front row with one of his uncles was holding him. And then, the lady that died, her poor husband, was sitting there grieving. Those are tough ones. You feel bad the rest of the day. Just have I had that image in my mind of that little boy. And but one of the family members in the eulogy made a real good comment. He told everybody at the mass, he said, look, we have an obligation to support this family for years to come. And we have to tell this little guy, Benjamin, what a great mommy he had and keep her memory alive, because he's only 4 and he's probably not going to even remember any of this. And they said it's our job to keep that memory alive. So here it was a very sad thing, but that was very good advice given to everybody. But I know, after I do one of those, it's tough going home thinking about it. But that's again where I've got my priest friends. I got my own prayer time. I do have great faith that that woman went to heaven. And I told her husband that. I said, you're going to see her again. I believe in the resurrection. I believe we're not meant to live forever here. We're meant to live forever with the Lord. So, I teach it and I got to believe it and I got to live it. Sometimes it's a little bit harder to believe, but, I do have that belief. And that's what gets me through it.
Amen.
Yeah. I lost my mom and dad prior to COVID many years ago. And I remember feeling, Father, that sense of hopelessness, and that extreme grief in the beginning. And I remember going to the support group at St. John Vianney many years after my mom passed away. I just had some issues to resolve and just some feelings I needed to sort out through. And that was so wonderful. It was no cost and it got me through. It helped me get unstuck, right?
Yeah. And we still have that. During the bad days of COVID, we couldn't even do it because we weren't allowed to have meetings on the property indoors. When it was nice out, we were able to do it outside and have people sit outside and talk. But once the winter came, we couldn't even do the support group. We did have people call, the individuals who had lost a loved one, to do it on the phone. But a couple of weeks ago, we opened up the support group again. So Jim Hickey's a grief counselor here and a pastoral minister, and he and Patty Murphy did the support group. And, they had maybe 6 or 7 people each week. Mm-hmm. Support group, people help each other, because they know what each other are going through. So yeah, I'm glad that it helped you when you went through that loss, and we still have that now. And I know they're going to do it again this summer.
Right. And not everyone is going to go. We hope that everybody would go to a support group, but not everybody will. What tips can we give people now, Father? What can you tell them now so they don't get stuck? It seems like sometimes people just get stuck and they can't really get over the loss. I don't think we ever get over the loss, but we want to move forward with our lives, right? And find joy in our lives.
Yeah, I think the best thing is to talk to somebody. So you're right that not everybody wants to go to a group. Not everybody feels comfortable, saying what they're feeling and thinking in front of a bunch of strangers. So some people have a hard time doing that. So then they tend to talk to themselves, which is probably not the best person to talk to. I was always told that if you try to be your own spiritual director, you have a fool for a spiritual director. And what they're trying to teach us is you need to have somebody to talk to. If you just talk to yourself, you're not talking to the right person. So I would say if somebody's struggling and they're stuck, they need to talk to somebody. And sometimes they could just do it over the phone, if not in person. But I always find it's better in person, and now they could do that. So for sure, you talk to the Lord. But in addition to the Lord, you talk to somebody, or you get a good book. There's some good books out there, a lot of good resources. We have a library here at St. John Vianney's, and we've got a whole section on mental and spiritual health. Again, that has been closed. We weren't allowed to keep the library open during COVID, but now it is. So there's resources, people, if they can't talk to somebody, they can, read the book. It's like talking to the author.
Right. Do you think that people who lost people because of COVID, do you think they have a harder time because it happened during the pandemic and the loved one lost the person to COVID?
Yes, I think it's tough. Some of the people had pre-existing conditions and, were at risk. But I'm thinking of a couple people that got it, and people had a hard time accepting that they died. I had this one couple here at the parish where the husband got it and then the wife got it. This was in the early days. It was my very first funeral, so she got it, then he got it. He got it real bad. So she took him to Hillcrest to the ER and she dropped him off and said, I'll be in a minute. And then she parked the car and went back and they wouldn't let her in because she had COVID, and she was over it. So she never got to see her husband again. He was in the hospital and he passed away. And, my heart really went out to her. Just that was so hard for her. And she was a nurse too. So she had spent her whole career helping those who were sick, and then she couldn't help her own husband. But one of the things that was great is she has great sons. And I really think it's your family, your friends, and your faith that get you through it. And that's what got her through it. And just a couple weeks ago, they had the year anniversary. And we all went out to dinner. And everybody sat around, and it was kind of his celebration of life that we couldn't do back when he died. And everybody sat and told stories and checked to see how everybody was. So she's doing better after a year. So people do get better by the grace of God and good friends.
Good. Do you think, a lot of times in our society, people don't want to talk about death at all? It's like, you don't want to talk about it. Do you think that we would be better, at appreciating our lives if we thought about death? And and then if we do, what's the extent of it? What should it be?
Yeah, I think it's better to talk about our own death and the death of our loved ones. Like I say, if you just talk to yourself, you're probably talking to the wrong person. So it's good to talk about it. You don't want to get morbid and dwell on it, but you don't want to avoid it. I remember when in my own family, when my mom was real sick and she was talking about dying, and my brother would say to her, "Mom, don't talk like that," because he didn't want to hear her say it. But I said to my brother, she wants to say certain things to us. Let her talk about it. So I think, I helped my own family to do that. And my mom had a chance to talk to each and every one of us and tell us exactly what her wishes were for us. And we were able to talk to her. But I think some families would say, "Hey, don't talk like that." I've had cases where I've gone to see somebody and they'll say, "Don't tell Mom that she's dying." The kids will say, "Don't tell Mom she's dying. We don't want her to have to deal with that." And then I'll go in and talk to Mom and she'll say, "Don't tell my kids, but I'm dying." She doesn't want to bother them. They don't want to bother her. They don't want to make them go through it. And I always say, well, it's probably better to give everybody a chance to talk.
And it's so important to be part of a church community. I mean, I know we had my dad living here for 7 years and he passed away. And one of the first things I did was when I was in the ambulance with my dad on my way to Hillcrest, I called Father John's. I don't even know where that came from. I just did. And then my dad passed away, and then there was Father John's at Hillcrest. And you probably don't even remember, you've probably done this 1,000 times, but that is a moment in my life that I will always remember. And yeah, so we love you and I'm sure you've done that thousands of times.
I will remember your dad used to bring him to Mass sometimes. Remember on the Mass, he was always struggling, he was on that oxygen. And my heart would go out to people struggling to breathe. And I remember how he was struggling to do that. But yeah, I remember praying for him and with him and for you guys too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being a beacon of hope for our community through all this and continuing to shine your light on your parish. We appreciate your time, Father Johns. Thank you so much.
We love you.
Thank you. And bye, Anna. You guys have a good one.
Thank you, Father.
Okay, got it.
For these stuffed peppers, I already pre-made my ground chicken.
Good evening, even though it is very clearly morning. Welcome to the grand finale of UCS Good News, UCSGN for short. Of course, this has been our weekly Zoom broadcast where we highlight positive news stories from all over the UCS community. And this week, just like we have for the last 32 weeks or so, we reached out to you, our wondrous UCS community, and we asked you to share the good news. And the response was heartfelt and true as always. We always say on this program, that we get to share the good news, but you are the good news. So on behalf of myself, one last time, the entire UCS crew and this child drinking directly from a sprinkler, I want to say thank you for sharing the good vibes this week. And now it's time for some good news. Okay. The Red Line Greenway, the new bike and pedestrian trail adjacent to the RTA Red Line on Cleveland's west side, our neighborhood, officially opened recently to much fanfare. Here's a picture of Miss Pamela and Miss Angel's fourth grade classes, 2005 and 2007, on their hike on the Red and Green Trail. They walked a total of 6 miles, and they encourage other classes to hike this trail as well. Here's another lovely photo here. The trail directly connects 8 Cleveland neighborhoods and includes a robust planting of native trees and landscaping, I'm told. I have it on good authority that no trolls were displaced during the construction.
And share our videos on social media so you can make everybody smile. And thank you to our sponsors, Urban Community School and the Coleman Bond Corporation and Don Tequila and Mentor.
Welcome to Don Tequila.
You can enjoy authentic Mexican dishes, the crazy pineapple, la piña loca, stuffed with beef, chicken, and shrimp, the Ohio State burrito, and they make fresh guacamole right in front of you. A full bar with top shelf tequila with drinks like the Jumbo Margarita and the Michelada. Visit Don Tequila in Manor and at these locations. And if you mention the Ana Show when you go to Don Tequila, they will take 10% off your bill. Mention the Ana Show.